Welcome to the Prescription for Career Success podcast.
I just want to look at how we can use cognitive-based models such as rational emotive behavior therapeutic approaches to really get them to understand how to institute this or to navigate this process. So I want you to look at this graphic that I have created for you. And there are several different ways that we can implement behavior agility, but I really like to focus my research on the REBT approach because as a cognitive model, because it requires you to get into a deep dive into it. So one of the most well-known cognitive approaches is going to be REBT, rational emotive behavior therapeutic approaches. I say therapeutic because I'm not a licensed clinical therapist, so we take the techniques and then we're using them to help equip employees, right? So REBT serves as an operational mechanism for building adaptability and behavior agility, especially from a coaching standpoint. REBT is based on a simple but powerful premise that emotional turbulence is not caused by the change itself, but by the belief that we hold about the change. Now, there are some limitations associated with this when we talk about the realities of running an organization. But for processes where we're implementing everyday change, some of that resistance, again, is rooted in bias, stereotypes, etc., about what we feel or perceive that are not necessarily the reality of that change, which is what this is meant to address. So, for example, when a new process is introduced, one employee, again, may think that this is an opportunity to learn, while another will think, I'll never be able to do this. The change is the exact same, but their beliefs are totally different. And so you're going to get different outcomes from these employees. One of the most well-known REB techniques, which I'm going to encourage you to join me in the live exercise event because we're going to go through this process. But one of the most well-known is going to be the ABCDE framework, which is where we look, the activating event is going to be the organizational change. And this triggers the beliefs around that change. And those beliefs influence emotional and behavioral consequences. And through disputation or decategorization phasing, individuals may learn to challenge irrational assumptions, rigid thinking patterns, and unhelpful interpretations. The result is a more adaptive effect characterized by greater flexibility and an openness to change. So REBT becomes more powerful when it's combined with emotional intelligence, as I pointed out earlier, because emotional intelligence provides that situational awareness that is going to be needed to recognize those thoughts, because most people don't even get to the root cause of why they're thinking. And so when you look at the research, these approaches are effective in high stress environments where uncertainty, pressure, and rapid decision-making is common. And by helping individuals to assess, adjust, and align their responses in real time, REBT is going to strengthen that adaptability and it supports and develop behavior agility. Now, it also encourages leaders and employees to move beyond surface level reactions, because remember, in order to create and institute this sustainable change, we have to make sure that we are getting to the root cause of why an employee thinks this way or what triggers them. All right. And so that serves as a mechanism and bridge to both teach behavior, agility, and adaptive behavior, but as well as getting to the root cause of why an employee may be feeling the way that they're feeling about a particular topic. And so the goal here is really to take employees from resistance to being champions of change. And at this point, we've examined how behavior agility can develop through cognitive restructuring, emotional intelligence, and approaches such as REBT. And the question really is, what happens when individuals apply these skills in the workplace? Because the first outcome is from resistance to champion change. And employees who positively perceive change are more likely to move beyond simple compliance and manage uncertainty more effectively. And that's the goal, right? Creating that sustainable change by getting them to become champions of change and helping them to understand themselves. And we as leaders within these organizations need to understand the root cause of why employees may be resistant to change, because it more than likely it has something to do with the culture in that organization. So as individuals strengthen their behavior agility, they also begin to transform their mindset as well as their performance. And improved emotional regulation is going to help individuals manage that uncertainty more effectively. And our ultimate goal is to extend beyond successfully managing a single change initiative. And then as you can see in the third section of this graphic, REB supports what I refer to as the G for growth. The objective is adaptability. And in this way, change becomes an important opportunity for learning and development rather than a threat to stability. And this perspective also helps address an important gap in traditional change management approaches, because historically, organizations have often responded to resistance after it appears, focusing on reactive coping strategies. And this approach that I'm proposing in this research shifts that focus toward real-time cognitive restructuring, not just simply identifying a champion, but really helping employees and leaders to understand the root cause of why they're responding in this way. And from a leadership perspective, if I understand why my employees are responding this way, besides general personality differences, maybe it's something within that culture, then I can address that. And by helping individuals identify and challenge unhelpful beliefs as they emerge, organizations can proactively influence how employees think, feel, and behave. And so at the bottom of this slide, I just want to say that when we're I'll put a little note here that when we're thinking about transforming and shifting, we have to think about transforming emotions. And when we transform those emotions, we can transform behavior. When behavior changes, organizations are going to achieve better results. And ultimately, the goal of behavior agility is to not simply help people survive change, it's to help them to grow through that change and become champions of continuous improvement, adaptability, and organizational success.